are talking The Heretics, which is directed and co-written by Chad Archibald. And this is a kind of satanic ritual cult type thing, and it focuses on this young girl who we understand from a few years earlier she was abducted by some kind of cult of demon worshippers or something along the lines of that, and they performed some kind of ritual. Now cut to a few years later, obviously the present time, and we find out that she's obviously still sort of has nightmares about the kind of the experience. She's in a kind of relationship with this other girl, and they both kind of volunteer at some kind of like dinner place for homeless people or something like along the lines of that. And this her girlfriend also has somewhat of a troubled past. One day she's actually kidnapped by this guy who seems to have a connection to the kind of the cult as from the past, and obviously as the movie progresses we find out there may be more to the story than lets on. So let's discuss The Heretics. Pretty well made movie, I've got to say. Nicely shot. I would say the direction here is pretty good. The story is relatively slight. I mean, when it all is said and done, there's not actually a lot of plot here, to be quite honest. I mean, the bulk of the story is this girl being kind of like chained up in this cabin in the woods somewhere, and ultimately they're just her relationship to those around her, the guy who's kidnapped her, and obviously her kind of partner and the kind of family members, etc., and how that kind of changes as the movie progresses. And there's this threat of this sort of demonic entity is going to take over her body unless something can be done before the kind of the dawn breaks, basically. So it's, you know, it's a kind of relatively small, contained affair. But the direction, like I said, is good. I think the actual production value seems pretty high here. It kind of has a nice kind of like polished feel to it. There's some fantastic kind of practical makeup here as we sort of see the transitioned into something, maybe something a little bit more demonic. And I've got to say they do quite a fun job of making it seem not OTT, but still kind of like very kind of demonic and perverse in a kind of a way that's just quite good. There's also some fun little kind of psychological tricks that are employed by the forces of darkness to try and kind of win their hand, so to speak, trying to kind of fool any kind of protagonist kind of characters into maybe doing things they wouldn't normally do and stuff like that, which I thought was quite fun. On the negative side here, like I said, there's not a huge amount of plot to it, if I'm completely honest. It just kind of is a fairly sort of straightforward movie. The film does try to have a couple of twists in the movie, one about halfway through and one kind of right at the end, both of which you can see coming a mile off. If you have watched more than 5 movies in your life, you'll see both of them sort of coming a mile off. So it's not really a surprise, and but the movie thinks that it is. I've got to say, although I like the performances, there's a character called Joan here who is essentially the girlfriend of our kind of our lead character. I thought she was maybe hamming it up a little bit too much, to be quite honest with you, and it kind of it almost shows her hand a little bit about what's going on. It's just a little bit of overacting from her. However, I really did like the guy who played Thomas, who is the kind of I guess the male lead here, as he does make for quite a compelling, you know, character. Now I can't say too much without kind of giving away massive plots to here. It's a fine movie, I would say. It's a perfectly, you know, watchable horror film with decent effects, you know, pretty decent acting, very kind of easy to follow, straightforward plot, but no real surprises, and it's not quite as clever as it thinks it is. So I'll give this movie a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.